Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to RayARCH, the channel that is all things architecture. Today we have another Q&A video where you guys ask questions and I answer them. For today's Q&A, I have two questions that I really want to answer because the two questions relate to each other a little bit, and one of the question actually is a component to the other question. And with that being said, let's begin this Q&A. The first question is from Sneha Rajan, I hope I pronounced your name right, and she asked, what is area programming? The second question comes from Jess Chappelle, and she asked, how can I break down the process of developing a design? So I'm going to answer Jess's question first. How do I break down the process of developing a design? My answer to Jess's question is you don't. Don't force yourself to follow a linear path when you start designing because it's gonna force you to go down just one path when you have a bunch of ideas that you want to explore. What I like to do is actually what Sneha brought up as a question. When I first design, I like to understand my client, my user, and the site I'm designing at. And I'm sure you guys understand what site analysis is because you guys have done that already. But the user and the client is always really confusing to architects, designers, anyone. The client is essentially the person that provides you the finance to fund the project. The users, on the other hand, are the people that uses your space that you're designing. Sometimes a user can be the same as a client. For example, if your client is trying to build his own house, then he is going to live in it, so he is the client and the user. And in other cases, for example, like a school building, the client of the school building is probably the Department of Education, but the users of the space are teachers, janitors, custodians, and students. So I hope you guys kind of understand the difference between client and user, which is kind of important when you start a design. And the second part to designing is actually what Sneha was asking, area programming. To be honest, when Sneha first asked this question, I was like, crap, what is area programming? I totally forgot. And then I Googled a little bit and then I jump-started my brain and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it was. Area programming is actually a really fun part of design. A lot of times architecture students and architects like to design the overall form of the building first and then just dump it onto the site and be like, oh, that looks really good. But what I like to do is to take a step back and write down all the rooms and spaces I need for my design. For example, if I'm designing a library, I know that I need a large space for the bookcases. I know I need rooms for computers, for the librarian, for students. Sometimes schools take field trips to libraries and they don't want to take up the whole library, so they have a room for them. Bathrooms, I think I said that right? No, I didn't. Bathrooms are important. Now that you have a list of the rooms that you need for a building, you have to figure out the dimensions of these rooms. You have to know how big they can get and how small is required at least. And then with all the information that you've acquired from just doing simple research like on Google, you can take all these info and apply it to your design. And now that we're done with area programming, we can move on to program adjacency. And don't let that term scare you because it's just a fancy word for bubble diagram. I find bubble diagrams really easy to work with because I'm just doodling in my book. What you want to do is you want to start off with your biggest bubble, which is the biggest room that you need in your building, and then start to plug in other bubbles. And with program adjacency, the most important thing for you to learn and understand is what space can be next to each other and what space cannot. For example, if I'm designing a restaurant, I know for sure that I do not want the bathrooms to be anywhere near the dining area. When was the last time you went to a restaurant and you were like, I want to be seated next to the bathroom because I want to hear the sound of it and I want to smell what's coming out of it? Yeah, never. So that's what program adjacency is. You want to understand what can be next to each other and what cannot, and essentially the sizes of all the rooms put together and see where you can place them, almost like Lego pieces. You want to, put pieces together, play around with them. That's what program adjacency allows you to do, as well as area programming. And obviously the next step is to start designing. I'm not saying that you have to jump right into AutoCAD and start forming lines. I'm saying you open your sketchbook, you bring out some modeling supplies, and you just start playing around with your ideas. Also, please note that this is the time of your life or your design process where you want to have a lot of ideas. Think of it this way, your brain is like a box and your box is full of junk. And that's a good thing because Like spring cleaning, you're taking out the trash, you're cleaning everything out, and you're keeping what you like, right? Versus the brain that's an empty box and you have to constantly shove things in there last minute. That's not how design works. And what I mean by that is you should be observant of your surroundings, taking all that life can give you, taking all things that universe is throwing your way, good or bad. And from there, you take out all the crap you don't need. Keep whatever precious items that you want to keep for yourself. That's how design should be, in my opinion. And I just want to reiterate before I end the video, don't be afraid. Jess, anyone else who's feeling the same way, don't be afraid of having too many ideas. It's a good thing, guys. It's a good thing. Don't try to start off with just one idea because it's not going to take you far. The more ideas you have, the farther you would go. And with that said, I'm ending the video here. I hope I answered your questions in a way that you can understand it, because that's how I learned it and that's how I developed my mentality and my way of going through architecture school, especially with the design process. And to be honest, I never even thought about this whole design process thing until my thesis year, because that's when we have to present weekly and like think about what to present during these phases. But other than that, I realized that I never really thought or gave a second thought about the whole design process. Most of the time, I just did things. I just kept doing things. So as long as you don't stop, you are on the right track in your design process. By the way, I'm only answering for like the earlier stages of design because I'm not too sure about how your school runs things. I'm not sure about how your firm runs things. But I'm talking about the first few stages of architectural designing. The earlier stages of design is always the most fun to me, and it always has been and it always will be. It's just that some people don't get it and they like to start with one idea, bring it to the very end all the way, versus starting with a bunch of ideas and then editing down into one idea. Whether you like it or not, you're gonna end up with one idea and it's gonna be great because you're gonna put in so much effort and you're gonna be ambitious in studio, so just don't worry about it. And when you design, it's not a one-man show. You're gonna have mentors, you're gonna have professors, you're gonna have your classmates that's gonna help you make sure that you get there. So don't feel like you're gonna be always alone in studio, because you can always ask your classmates, you can ask me any questions regarding your project. And on that note, I just want to say thanks for watching this video and I hope it helped. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already. So I have this crazy idea. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how I'm going to execute it, but I just want to share this with you and get your input on it. Basically, I want to be able to receive your presentations and critique them. But I do understand that it's time sensitive, because if you are in a studio and you have a presentation the next day, I'm not going to be able to get the video to you in time to kind of give you feedback. But what I'd like to do is, if you have ideas for like next semester and you want to run it by me first before you start, actually pursuing it, I would be more than happy to help you do that. I just have to figure out how I can receive your presentations, because it is a big file size, I assume. And I'm gonna have to be able to turn that into a video format, which is gonna be hard on my part. But yeah, let me know in the comment box below what you guys think of that idea. And I always do this with my students, and I do this with like my classmates back then. So if it's helpful for you guys, I would love to start that as like a series on this channel, which would be like crazy. It would be great. But my battery is dying right now and I have to say goodbye. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Happy designing.